Welcome to the 10-Minute Book Guy.
Okay, think about this for a second. What if the most profound acts of love are actually built on lies? What if the kindest, most necessary thing you could do for someone is tell them a complete fabrication? That's the really haunting question right at the heart of The Emperor of Gladness, the absolutely staggering novel by Ocean V. Vuong. Let's get into what makes this book such a masterpiece of language and, well, empathy.
So, where does this story begin? It opens with a young man who's at the absolute end of his rope. He's adrift in a town that, honestly, feels like it ran out of futures to offer a long time ago.
We're in a place called East Gladness. It's this post-industrial New England town that Vuong sketches with just devastating precision. You know the kind of place? Forgotten veterans sitting on plastic chairs, teenagers figuring out their entire future in a Walmart parking lot, and fathers watching their sons on football fields, just waiting, as Vuong puts it so perfectly, for a boy to crush himself into manhood.
And this is where we meet our protagonist, Hai. He is just completely overwhelmed. He's feeling like a failure, and he's crushed by the weight of this huge lie he's told his mother. He ends up on a bridge, King Philip's Bridge, believing that the only path forward is to fall, to just let gravity take him, blameless, into the river below.
But right at that moment, just as he's about to let go, a voice cuts through the rain. It's this woman, Grazina, an elderly Lithuanian immigrant whose own grip on her memories is, well, it's fracturing. And in this moment of pure random chance, she sees him, shouts at him, and pulls him back. Not just from the edge of the bridge, but straight into her own fragmented world.
Okay, but the real power of this novel, it goes so far beyond just the plot. Let's really dive into 3 core insights that show you exactly what makes Vuong's artistry so incredible.
So first up, the poetics of place. Look, Vuong doesn't just describe a setting, he elevates it. He makes it feel almost sacred. East Gladness isn't just some bleak backdrop, it's a living, breathing character, and it's all rendered with a poet's eye for detail.
This right here is where Vuong does his magic. He finds the sublime in the absolute desolate. He's describing moss on old train tracks, right? But he says it looks like a returned glacial flood, making the whole scene biblical. He finds this ancient, sacred beauty in the middle of industrial decay. And that's not just pretty writing, you know? It's a huge thematic statement that grace, real grace, can be found in the most ruined of places.
And that ability to find beauty in ruin, well, that leads us straight to our second big insight, the novel's profound look at found families. We're talking about strangers who piece together a new kind of belonging out of their shared brokenness. And you see this most powerfully in the bond between Hai, Grazina, and this group of misfits at a fast food joint called Home Market. And the way their bond is shown is just brilliant. It's through a fiction they create together. To help soothe Grazina's traumatic memories of the war, Hai pretends to be Sergeant Pepper, a U.S. soldier back in World War II Germany. They're not just humoring each other here. They are co-creating a reality that is safer and kinder than the truth. They're forging a family not in spite of their delusions, but actually because of them.
Which brings us to the novel's most vital and maybe its most challenging idea, the concept of the lie. But not as a betrayal. No, this is the lie as a radical, almost desperate act of compassion. This whole idea is captured perfectly by a character named Maureen and her theory about the cornbread they sell at Home Market. See, it's secretly loaded with sugar. And she explains that by calling it bread, you set one expectation. But when it tastes like cake, it feels like this incredible, miraculous gift. And that simple observation, it becomes the central metaphor for the entire novel. It's genius. And Vuong just threads this idea through every major relationship. Hai's Sergeant Pepper persona, that's a lie to shield Grazina from her trauma. The fact that he invents a whole medical school career, that's a lie to give his immigrant mother a reason to hope, to be proud. Even his manager, BJ, lies about a recipe just to give a freezing homeless man a single moment of dignity and connection. These aren't malicious deceptions at all. They're life rafts.
So, with all that, why does a novel so steeped in sorrow feel so vital and, in its own strange way, so hopeful?
Well, it's because at its heart, The Emperor of Gladness is all about the profound, unyielding human need for connection. It gives this powerful voice to the loneliness of people living in the forgotten corners of America, and it shows how we build families and find grace not in these big, grand gestures, but in the small, flawed, and, yeah, sometimes deceptive acts of care.
So, who is this book really for? Well, if you're a reader who just cherishes language, someone who's willing to sit with discomfort and beauty in equal measure, then this book is going to be a deeply, deeply rewarding experience for you. But if you're looking for a straightforward, plot-driven story, you might find the novel's poetic, meditative pace a little challenging. This is a story to be inhabited, not just consumed.
So what's the one thing that sticks with you after you close this incredible book? What's its lasting impression?
For me, it all comes down to this extraordinary final reflection. Vuong has this image of future archaeologists judging our entire era by our fast food joints. But instead of being cynical about it, he finds something holy. He elevates that simple transactional question, "How can I help you?" into a sacred, endless mantra. It literally becomes the prayer of our time, a flawed for sure, but persistent hymn of humanity's attempt to care for one another, even in the most broken of places.
Your weekly shortcut to deciding what to read next.